Hello and welcome back to Project Spark, and welcome back to Let's Build a World. I am the ConflictNerd, and today we're back here on the ship. Now this ship has turned out to be a much more complicated build than I thought it would be. Last week when it came to actually building the thing to begin with, I didn't think I'd be spending almost 2 hours on the ship alone and still not be done with it. Even at the end of this episode, we're not done with the ship. I'm still not happy with the final product that we end up with in this episode. And I want to change it, and I'm hoping you guys can actually help me with this. So what we do is I go ahead and use these benches as the railings on the ship. And I use the back of them, not the bottom of them. And it looks okay. It looks alright. It looks better than the signs did. That was kind of the main criticism I got. The signs didn't look all that great because the ends didn't match up all that well. But then, I mean, the ends match up on these benches. They still look a bit weird. You'll notice those bits sticking out at the bottom of them, and I thought maybe I could hide that with a log pillar. I end up hiding it in a much better way that I'm really happy with. I really like the look of on this side of the ship, but the issue arises when it comes to cloning it onto the other side of the ship. Because of the way grouping works, it wasn't really an option to group everything and just rotate it, so it turned out to be a bit of a nightmare to get all of this done. And the other side of the ship from where we're working now doesn't turn out to be exactly the same as this one. But this is what we end up doing. We end up using more of the same benches, just the bottom of them this time, to sort of create this nice decorative outcropping from the side of the ship here, and I really like it. I think it looks pretty good. I'm just still not that happy. I don't think the railing looks all that good, and I'm hoping someone can give me some advice on what to do to make it look a little bit better. Now what we're doing here is just building the gangplank. Of course the king can't get onto the ship. The gangplank has in fact fallen into the water, so I just built it up here to make it about the right size, and then moved it down and just kind of let it rest on the rocks a little bit to, so if you do happen to look down when the king says that, you can in fact see the gangplank does exist. Now here we are going to the other side of the ship, and this is what I mean. Rotating is very weird on this, and yeah, it didn't quite work. It's sort of the fault of me and the ship going back a little bit further than just this episode. The ship isn't symmetrical on both sides. It's not identical by any stretch of the imagination, so that's sort of why these benches don't quite sit right. And I mean, you wouldn't really notice it, and I could be lazy and say, well, it's all the rustic kind of themes, so it's not really supposed to be symmetrical, but at the same time I'm just, I don't know, I don't want to be lazy and say, oh, it's rustic, therefore it doesn't really match up. It's meant to look a bit derpy. Because the ship isn't really meant to look derpy. So I might have to go in and figure out a better way to do this kind of thing. I mean, it looks alright, but it's not perfect. It definitely needs work, so if anyone has any suggestions for how to make this ship look a little bit better, then please just leave them in the comment section, because I'm honestly getting to a point where I'm lost for ideas. Anyway, we're going to be moving on a little bit here and going into another project. Now, another suggestion that we got, I believe, in the previous episode was to go ahead and build a cave that you could explore. Now, what I'm doing here is just carving into this mountain a little bit, of course, in behind the waterfall, and I'm just going to create what's basically just a network of caves, and it's nothing particularly complicated. I might edit it a little bit off camera or before I make the map necessarily public, so that you know, there are secret passages, there are little bits here and there that are maybe hidden or that you didn't see get built. I am strongly considering doing some edits to the map off camera so that when people play it, they don't know everything that's here, but at the same time, doing that means that people don't get feedback and don't get to comment on what they think would and would not work, so I'll have a think about that. But I am quite happy with the way the caves work. I think they're, you know, they're very, I suppose, messy would be the right word. I want to go with messy because really that is what they are. They're very you know, all over the place. They go up and down and around and spiral, and there's this bit down here with loads of water in it. I think the caves look alright. They do a reasonable job. Now I'm going about here with the terrain paints to make it look like water and stuff. Water and stuff. What is water and stuff? To make it look like water has been in here and that it's all very, you know, waterlogged, and that there's all these stones and bits of moss in the walls. Of course, going about and making sure it's not just a bunch of hard edges on the terrain paint, making it blend between, you know, the moss and the rocks and all of the various roots and all that hang through the ceiling. I just wanted it to look interesting. I didn't want it to all be the same texture, so I do go about and sort of just add to it a little bit. And here we are just testing it out a little bit, just to make sure that you can actually run through the caves. And I mean, I was happy with this. I like that there's a decent bit of space, but I do make the caves a little bit taller and a little bit wider in just a little bit of time. Apparently a lot of little bits here. Now this area down here, this sort of waterlogged area with the water on the floor, is actually going to contain another reference to Robin Williams. So those of you that have seen the previous episodes will know that I put a little reference to Robin Williams passing away in the Williams farm field. There's a bit of a gravestone. Down in that little cave, there's actually going to be another one that we're going to be adding in a little bit. But at the moment, what we're doing is just, like I said, widening the caves a little bit, making them a bit taller. And I think I also go about and sort of, I smooth out some areas. And I also go ahead and roughen up some other areas just to give a little bit of differentiation here and there and make the caves a little bit less bland. Because at the moment, that's what they are. They're just sort of tunnels going through the mountain. I wanted something a little bit more complicated, so bit of terrain paint here and there, a little bit of smoothing out some areas, roughening up some other areas, and you get a nice cave that isn't all boring and the same. I also opened up this little bit in the side of the mountain. We're going to be doing something with that in just a little bit, but what we're going to be doing right here is adding in a goblin. And this goblin, when we add him, is going to be that reference that I mentioned just a moment ago. Now, I decided that I wanted some pillars holding this bit up just to make it look like there's someone living down here, and my idea for this goblin is that he's been living in these caves for a really long time, never really leaving them, maybe catching some fish or something, but he doesn't even know that there is a town outside the caves. So yeah, there's the little reference there in his dialogue. He doesn't really know there's much of a town. He's incredibly pale and just generally a bit sickly looking, and that's just because he doesn't tend to leave the cave, so there is that. This guy is probably never going to be anything more than just a little kind of thing to find. Go into the caves, find the goblin, get his funny, silly line of dialogue, and then pop back out of the caves, and that's going to be it. Now, I did decide to add a couple of things in here, and I'm probably going to add a lot more at some point, but we add a bone onto the table. We're going to be adding a sword propped up against one of the pillars here, and I think we also add it's an arrow, but I stick it into the pillar and set the end of it on fire to look like a torch. Now the issue is, and the thing I didn't realize, is that both the arrow and the sword have physics on them, so they fall over. I didn't disable those at all, so the arrow flies out of the wood, and the sword just falls over and floats in the water. They both float in the water. So we do need to fix that. That's something that will need to be sorted before the map goes live, but yeah, I'd say that's probably quite a ways off just yet. I honestly don't have any idea as to when the map will be available, or when it'll be playable, or when I'm going to release an early version of it, because my plan is to finish building the world just as it is. No quests, no stories, no objectives, just explore. And then I'm going to go off and teach myself how to do the in-game coding and how to make various quests and how to make quest lines. And I'm going to hopefully put those into this world and then re-release the world with my quests in it. So there's going to be effectively 2 releases of this. The kind of exploration one and the one that has the quests in it. And what I may do is I'll probably do another series on the quest creation. That may be when I alter the map a little bit, so that you don't know where everything is, so that the caves are a bit different, so that the coastlines may be a little bit different, or there's a tree here or there. But that's kind of my plan with it. I don't know if I've ever really made that clear, but that is what I want to do with this series and with this world. I want to release it twice and let you explore it, let you give feedback, and then hear what kind of quests you would like to see. If you have any ideas for what quests you'd like to see in the world, you can already start sending them my way, and I'll see about adding them to it at some point in the presumably distant future. Anyway, back to the build. What we've done there is add some fog to the cave coming up from the water. That's just to give it a little bit of an eerie, creepy look, and also to sort of maybe be some smoke coming off the torch. I also added a breeze coming in that hole at the side on the cliff, and a breeze coming in this one as well, just to make it look like the wind is sort of blowing into the cave. And that, as they say, is going to be that. That's the building process for this episode. We didn't really get a lot done, but I will definitely be expanding upon the caves at some point or other. I don't know when, and I'm not entirely sure about doing it on camera, just because that's something I feel should maybe have some secrets in it, and should maybe not be known to everyone going into it. So we'll see what I do with that. I will let you know if it has changed. I won't show you the changes, but if it does change, I will let you know. And other than that, any and all feedback on this ship would be lovely. I've got no idea what to do with it. I'm not entirely pleased with it just yet. But yes, thank you for any and all feedback that has been given in past episodes and may be given on this one. It really does help with the whole build process. These caves were not my idea at all. I took it from someone who commented in one of the previous episodes. I can't remember your name, sorry, I'm terrible with remembering names. And the idea for changing the railings on the ship was also taken from a comment, so if you have an idea, leave it in the comments. I will probably do it if I think I can do it. And with that in mind, thank you very much for watching. You can see there that the arrow fell over, and as did the sword. But yes, thank you very much for watching. I've been the Conflict Nerd. This has been Project Spark. Let's Build a World, Episode 9. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.